Today we're going to take a look at how the unemployment statistic is actually calculated in the United States. And it turns out that not everybody that is jobless is unemployed. And so we want to be able to understand how we sift out certain categories of the population to determine that actual unemployment rate. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with everybody, right? At the very top of this, we're going to start with the total U.S. population. But we're not going to be concerned with all of those people when we are considering the unemployment rate. There's certain people in there that just it's not going to be of interest to us about their working status. So for example, children, right? We're going to take out children from here, people that are under the age of 16 years old, right? We don't consider 5-year-olds that don't have a job to be unemployed, right? The second is we're going to take out people that are institutionalized, all right? If people are institutionalized either in a prison or in a mental institution or in a nursing home, for example, those people simply aren't capable of showing up and applying for work. So those people are not considered part of our unemployment calculation. And last, we're going to take out people that are in the military. If you're serving in the armed forces, you aren't able to quit whenever you want, right? Like you've got an agreement with the military, you have to stay in for X amount of time, or you've been drafted. So there are certain considerations about the military. You're just not considered to be employed or unemployed. We're just going to take you out from the total U.S. population and not consider that. What we're left with then is called the adult civilian population. But even all of those people we're not going to consider for unemployment as well. We're going to split that group up a little bit. And we can see we're going to take out some of these people that are just not really going to have an impact, aren't going to be affected by current economic conditions as to whether they're employed. For example, maybe your grandmother is retired, right? It doesn't matter how good the economy is, she's not really going to come out of retirement if the economy improves, or perhaps a stay-at-home dad or mom, right? A parent that stays at home to watch their kids, to help with their child rearing. Even if there were jobs available, they're not actively seeking those jobs. And then there's even people that are, let's say you are a stereotypical Cheeto eating, video game playing 25-year-old living in your parents' basement. You're not looking to get a job, right? You're just, your parents might be asking you to do that, but you aren't looking for work, right? If you're just kind of staying at home playing video games, even if a job was offered to you, no, I don't want that, right? So these people we're going to take out as well, because we're not going to consider them as being part of the civilian labor force. And so the question is, well, what makes these people different? Like, why aren't they part of the civilian labor force? What does it take to get into the civilian labor force? And honestly, you either have a job or you are actively looking for a job to be considered part of the civilian labor force. And so if you ask that stay-at-home parent, well, are you looking for work? Well, no, I'm taking care of my kids. I'm not able to go out and do that work. So they're not part of the civilian labor force. And so finally, what we're going to do is split the civilian labor force into people that have work, they're employed, and the people that don't have work, that are considered unemployed, right? But the important consideration here is that these unemployed people are part of the civilian labor force, right? And what that means is that they have to be actively looking for work in order to be considered unemployed. So there's this interesting sort of situation that takes place during the Great Depression. This is the worst economic crisis in our nation's history, where it lasted for over a decade, right? And you can imagine that there's somebody that is, out of work because of their factory shut down, and the next day they're out looking at the help wanted ads. They're searching. They're trying to find a job, and they do that the day after that, and they do that the month after that, and 6 months after that. But a year, 2 years after that, they know there's nothing there, and they stop looking for the job. And what happens is they go from being in this unemployed category down here, right? But now they're no longer in the civilian labor force because they aren't looking, and they come over and they're in this not in the labor force uh, area, right? And so that has an interesting effect. If people are leaving the unemployed box and entering this not in the labor force, the number of unemployed people is going to decrease, and we're going to be a little tricked about what's happening to unemployment, to the unemployment rate, right? All right, now speaking of the unemployment rate, we want to take a look at how do we calculate this percentage. Unemployment is always calculated as a percentage of people. And it's not the percentage of Americans that are unemployed. What it is we're going to take a look at the number of people that are unemployed, that is, they don't have jobs, but they're actively seeking jobs, out of the civilian labor force, right? We're not going to take this out of the total population. We're taking a look as the fraction of the civilian labor force. And that equals the percentage of unemployed people, right? And typically, we would like that unemployment rate to be about 4%, right? 4% is considered by economists to be full employment. And that indicates that the economy is doing really, really well. But there's still some people that are transitioning between jobs or whose skills aren't quite matched up with the jobs that are needed right now. But even if the economy improved and got bigger, those people wouldn't have jobs available to them. So this 4% is an exceptionally good unemployment rate, and we consider it full employment in the United States. So what I'd like you to do is to take a look at our current data, use this diagram to help you figure out the unemployment rate, and put those answers in the Google document. All right, hope you have a good day.